What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. Starting off today's videos, we're bringing out a full story. This is the full story of X-Men Heir of Apocalypse 2024. Now, this comic lies between the ending of the Krakoan era and what is being dubbed From the Ashes. After X-Men issue number 35, Apocalypse defeated by pretty much all the X-Men. He recognizes that mutant kind no longer wants his teachings. He's gonna move himself to Arakko, the mutants that come from the war-torn worlds. Mutants that only know war and battle. But if he's gonna leave Earth behind, somebody's gotta pick up the pieces. Somebody has gotta be there to make sure the mutant kind stays on the right track, that they live to their fullest potential, that they do not go extinct. And so to determine this, he holds a competition. He selects what he believes to be the best mutants capable of continuing on his legacy. And all of this leads to Revelation. So make sure you guys have subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you like this video. And with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we're picking up right in the middle of things. Apocalypse has teleported everybody here to Egypt, to the temple, and the first two contestants that we see is Mirage and Richter. Now, Mirage and Richter are really trying to figure out where the heck they are, wondering if this is Arakko, is this Earth, but it seems they already have the guidelines to what's going on. If there's gonna be someone to shepherd Earth, Apocalypse is gonna test them on Earth. But as the two of them fall down into a trapdoor, this is what lands them into quicksand. A quicksand that is much stronger than anything that had ever been seen. As we jump to the past, Richter in a meditative state, because with the help of Apocalypse, he has been able to reach his true potential. Being able to get the two of them out of this situation, both Richter and Mirage head down a corridor, and this is what takes us to the Gorgon. He is accompanied by Penance. Now this is interesting because Gorgon's been a character that has been out of the X-Men comics for a minute. If you guys remember in 10 of Swords, Gorgon died in Otherworld. When you die in Otherworld, resurrection doesn't work the same. And what Gorgon tells us is that he died. He came back wrong in the pages of 10 of Swords, and then he died again. But this time, he passed through the waiting room, a path back to his true self. And upon his return, he discovered that the nation that he had died for, it had all been undermined by power-mad fools. This is what takes us over to Sinister. Sinister, alive and well, even after everything that happened with Krakoa, now finds him possibly the heir to Apocalypse. With his technology and his capabilities down here, this is a cakewalk for him. Next up is Cable and Armageddon Girl. And while Cable seems at first willing to help her out and work together to get through this, Armageddon Girl doesn't care to have a partner. She doesn't care to have somebody looking out for her, telling Cable that she is more than capable of doing this. We have Exodus. Of course, Exodus walking through this place and not concerned at all by any traps that he might set off. He knows that these traps are beneath him. They are nothing that he can't handle. And then we're taken to Wolverine, Forge, Cipher, and the White Queen, Emma Frost. They are making their way through this labyrinth, trying to figure out what all this means. Apocalypse did come to them, came to Sync, came to Magic, came to Wolverine, offered all three of them the opportunity to be his heir, to be more than an X-Men. And while Sync and Magic both turned him down, Laura liked the proposition. As we pick up in the past, we pick up with Archangel and Sunfire. They arrive on Arakko. With no Krakoan gates, it is a little bit harder to get to this place. Both Archangel and Sunfire at first confused because they thought the other one had sent for them. The truth is, Apocalypse is the one that sent for them. That of all of his horsemen, these two have been the ones by his side, the greatest ones by his side. The ones with great potential, each of them suffering for him, emerging stronger, tempered by the flame of the revelation. But Apocalypse says that they must be tested further. This is where Archangel loses it. He has went through hell for Apocalypse. He has done so for the good of mankind. He put aside his own pain. He watched Apocalypse take a seat at the Quiet Council. He trusted Professor Xavier, Magneto, all on Apocalypse's word. But Archangel doesn't want to become him. He doesn't want anybody to become Apocalypse. And Apocalypse tries to plead his case with them, saying that he could have met them anywhere on Earth, but he chose this place because when Earth was young, he watched his homeland cleaved in two. Arakko suffered, but it endured. He did all that he could to prepare the mutants left behind to one day rejoin the family, to make their kind strong. He thought that he had achieved this goal with Krakoa, when Arakko and Krakoa were made whole once again. But then Krakoa failed, yet Arakko still endures. Now he believes that he must watch over it, that Arakko will be prepared for the day when all the people are united once more. Even with this, both Sunfire and Archangel turn him down. Picking back up in the temple, we see that all the contestants have made it to a central location. Emma making note that Nathan is the last person she thought that she would see here in this contest. But for Cable, after living through the future, after a future where Apocalypse got his way, he's not gonna let Apocalypse make any kind of big move this big without him having some kind of say-so. And as some of the people contemplate murdering Sinister right here on the spot because of who he is, what he has done, and the fact that he's still breathing, this is when a hologram of Apocalypse appears before them. He tells them that for a millennia, he sought the path laid out before them on Krakoa. The promise is something more than fighting over lessers for the right to exist. But all of that has been taken from them, that they are in lean times yet again, a famine of hope and potential. But he says that one of them, only one of them, will lead the mutants of Earth to prosperity once more. That so far they have been working together out of habit. But this trial, there is only one victor. There will only be one Heir of Apocalypse. And whether the rest of them survive or not is up to them. That the obstacles that they are going to face ahead are much more than anything that they have faced yet. That this was just the prelude. That they will face trials of the mind, the spirit, and everything in between. But this is when he goes out. There is a thunderous explosion, a gaping hole in the wall. As they look outside, they can see that they are in fact on Earth. But as they look outside, they also see flames and destruction. At this point, they're all contemplating what to do. Because if innocent people are in danger, a lot of them want to go help. But they also don't want to leave individuals like Sinister behind. At the end of the day, they still are in a contest, and for all they know, this is part of that contest. Exodus wouldn't put it past Apocalypse for this to be some part of the tribulations. And so with Exodus using his powers, they all move together as one. As they take off, Apocalypse sees this. This was not part of his plans. This was an unexpected visitor. But he sees this as a fitting test for his heir, because this party crasher, this is none other than Genocide. And he is very insulted that he has not been invited to the party. Telling Apocalypse, telling his father that you set me loose on the world, that you made me what I am, that I am the rightful heir to Apocalypse. Alright gang, so we jump into this with all the contestants going after Genocide. Genocide is here because he is outraged he was not invited, believing that he is the only and rightful heir to Apocalypse. With all the contestants charging in on him, we see that Armageddon Girl, she is taken off the board in an instant. Going to charge in on Genocide, he turns his full attention to her. He blasts away, and we see her taken out of this fight. And she's not just unconscious. Armageddon Girl is dead, and Genocide is just getting started. Now, a lot of the contestants are out here trying to save civilian lives. All the damage that Genocide is causing is making this situation uncontrollable, with Emma Frost telling Exodus that he's an Omega level. Use his telekinetic abilities, act like an Omega, and do it. And so we see Exodus take Genocide and he flings him. But it doesn't take take long for Genocide to get back on his feet. Now he stands toe-to-toe with Richter. Richter is trying to really stabilize all the buildings, while also trying to fight against Genocide. Everybody is so preoccupied, but Richter goes full on, taking building rubble and dirt, trying to close it in on Genocide. But he is able to break free. He counters Richter, firing a blast. In the blink of an eye, Richter is incinerated. Taken off the board, death number 2, points going to Genocide. And it's still not over. Cable, Forge, and Mirage, they're the next ones to jump in and try to go after him. With Exodus up in the sky, recognizing this situation's getting out of hand, what he can do about the civilians is lift all of them up and move them out of the area. That's exactly what Exodus does. Cable scans letting him know that all civilian lives are at least a mile outside of the radius of them, right where they stand. This means they can let loose all they have on Genocide. And with all the contestants finally able to come together, Genocide starts taking some heavy blows. Penance, Emma Frost, Wolverine, Gorgon, they're all jumping in. They're all taking their hits. And as Gorgon slices, he says that his armor makes him slow and makes him vulnerable. Genocide lets them know that this armor, it's not for him. This armor is to protect all of them. It's the only thing keeping them all alive right this moment, saying that if he can't win this fight, he'll take the entire world with him. That's when Penance jumps in, grabbing hold of him, trying to prevent him from taking off his suit. Exodus flies in from behind. Using his powers, he does a Superman punch, a giant blast of energy. That was the end of not only Genocide, but also Penance. Now, obviously, Emma Frost and some of the others are furious. Exodus just pretty much killed Penance. He could have thrown her out of the way. He could have done a dozen different things. At the end of the day, he didn't care. He saw an opportunity to take out Genocide, and he didn't care about the collateral damage. But this is where we see Exodus fall over. He had collapsed Genocide into a hyper-dense orb, and using all of this power, it literally kills Exodus. With Sinister saying that there does seem to be an upper limit to his powers after all. And as we pick up with Apocalypse, that is disappointing how many of his prospects have already fallen. But we do learn that it was orchestrated by Apocalypse to bring Genocide here. This is where we have the arrival of Warren Worthington III. Archangel coming in, letting Apocalypse know he wasn't going to let him get away with this. We pick up on Arakko. Archangel has shown up and he is going at Apocalypse. He is letting him know that this game, it ends now. And while Apocalypse has a little bit of respect for his passion, he reminds Archangel that no one allows Apocalypse to do anything. While the two of them battle, we pick up in Egypt. Everybody knows that Sinister has to do with some of the deaths. They know that he is playing dirty, and while they would all love to gut him right here, they say we can't do it here in the open with all these civilians around us. And with all this chaos, Emma's kind of beat down a little bit. She knows how bad Sinister is. The man is only here to betray them. Getting a glimpse of how Sinister got into this game to begin with, Sinister showed up to Apocalypse. He found out that Apocalypse is looking for an heir. And at first, Apocalypse wants nothing to do with him, because his mutant gene, it's not of his own, that he is a pretender to the species. Sinister says that this makes him a prime candidate. All the trouble he went through to become a mutant. Who has more reason to see mutant kind succeed? As we pick up with our champions, they're all trying to figure out what the heck they're gonna do next. This is where Gorgon finds something. Amidst all the chaos of Genocide, we find a tunnel. This is when they figure out that this was all planned. That Genocide was planted by Apocalypse. That they never left his test. And so they continue onward into the breach. Picking back up with Archangel and Apocalypse. We have an Archangel that is enraged, telling Apocalypse that he never learns. Mutant kind doesn't want your help. Apocalypse says that this is abundantly clear to him, considering what happened on Krakoa, believing Xavier was a man of vision, but his vision, it failed their homeland. And so he believed that it fell to him to ensure that Krakoa was not lost as Arakko once was, to win the war of ideals. Even the ones that he believed were worthy among them, they clung to the ideals of the past. And this experience, it humbled him. He is not who the mutants of Earth need to lead them forward into the future. Taking us over to our champions, they make their way down a staircase. This is taking them deeper and deeper into these catacombs. This maze set up by Apocalypse. As they walk through, they see what appear to be giant statues of Apocalypse's true four children, the true heirs of Apocalypse. And as they try to maneuver all the booby traps and everything else in between, as Gorgon steps forward to clear the way, Sinister throws something at Gorgon. Wolverine does not hesitate. She drives her claws right into Sinister's back. But Sinister's trick had already taken effect. Gorgon immediately turns on everybody. He strikes at Cipher, and Cipher almost falls off the edge. Wolverine knows that this is a control disc, sending Gorgon into berserker rage. Wolverine knows that unless they are able to put him down, he's not gonna stop. But Mirage, pulling out her mystical bow and arrow, she shoots Gorgon in the head and it drops him down to the ground, piercing whatever control that Sinister may have had and rendering him unconscious. And now at this point, everybody is ready to put down Sinister. As Emma Frost and everybody else begin to charge in, we pick up in the past and we see the conversation with Apocalypse. She would love to go off and do nothing, but Emma Frost, deep in her bones, she simply cares too much. So much that it kills her. She truly believes that she wants the best for mutant kind. But as our mutants charge in on Sinister, he throws a grenade and he blows the bridge. And blowing the bridge, all of our mutants fall. They fall down into the dark abyss. But Emma isn't going without Sinister, telepathically controlling him, telling him to jump. We see Sinister jump from the bridge, with a handful of the champions and Sinister falling to their death. We pick up with Apocalypse. He's letting Warren know that he is putting mutant kind, his own species, above his own pride. And while Warren would love to believe this, many individuals have already lost their life in his trials, those he deems expendable. This is when he manipulates his computer. He says that for human lives, he really doesn't care about them. But when it comes to mutant lives, that's not something that he plays with. He has grown a bit more precious. And what we see before us is all the individuals that have died in the trial, each of them teleported here at the moment of their failure. And he tells Warren that if you want to, you can stay here and you can safeguard these mutants until they awaken. But this trial will commence. Mutant kind will have a future, and Apocalypse will find his heir. This is where we pick up with the remaining champions. Forge, Cable, Mirage, and Cipher, all standing on the edge of that bridge, all trying to figure out how they're gonna get across. But as the ground begins to rumble, the giant statues that were the children of Apocalypse come to life. Stopping them from going backwards, their only option is to push forward and complete the game. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we pick up with the remaining contestants. They are currently battling against stoned versions of Apocalypse's children, standing 100 feet tall. While our contestants do everything they can to fight back, they're quickly learning that these things are vastly superior to what they can offer it. This is when all at once, the stone giants smash each of them against a wall, with Apocalypse's decision soon reaching a conclusion. He believes that his heir only needs to accept their role now. As we pick up with Cable in some kind of dreamscape, Apocalypse talks to him. Cable, the man outside of time. In every era, he has stood against Apocalypse. He has lost allies, lovers, flesh of his own blood in his name. And when Krakoa returned, Apocalypse found himself opposed by those that had grown without his guidance. They no longer accepted his principles. He needs somebody to continue the great work. He's gonna need an heir, one who does not hesitate to oppose him in turn. Cable's aim is true and relentless. That is why he selected him to be part of this contest. But Apocalypse wants to know why he chose to accept it, why Cable chose to accept this. And he says it's because he wants every weapon in his arsenal at his disposal. That way he ensures that his future never comes to pass. If that means becoming Apocalypse, then so be it. He tells Cable that his future and his past, they are a never-ending wheel. He is a child of Apocalypse as much as the Summers, or Jing, or even prior. But Cable's is a war that never ends. This is what takes us over to Forge, the great idea smith. Forge can build ways forward that not even Apocalypse could be able to conceive. That's why he came to Forge. And as he shows Forge what is possible, the world that Forge could build, given the opportunity, that's why they killed Krakoa, the city of tomorrow. Humankind was never gonna fully accept this. Even if it was a way to solve the housing crisis, the hunger crisis. They were rejected, and the city of tomorrow was never allowed to even become a thing. He truly believes that that city could have changed everything. This is when Apocalypse reminds him of another creation, another idea. This is when he throws him the Neuralizer gun, technology that Forge had developed to depower mutants. Technology humanity may have never discovered had it not been for Forge. And so he's gotta ask Forge to really look deep down inside yourself and ask, did you deserve the world outside that window? And if not, could you? Taking us over to Mirage, Apocalypse kinda tries to get into her head, but he's pretty unsuccessful. Apocalypse recognizes that there is great potential in her, untapped potential. He sees greatness lying dormant right underneath the surface. But Mirage is here just to ensure that somebody bad doesn't get into power. She wants to ensure that some power-hungry immortal doesn't exceed their reach. And this is what brings us to our last contestant, Doug Ramsey, aka Cipher. In his dreamscape, he is brought to Krakoa, to the Quiet Council Chamber, and Apocalypse begins by saying that Xavier and the others, they elected themselves to speak for the island, but Doug was the only one that spoke with the island, his power being an omni-linguist. He can communicate with pretty much anything, but that's really the extent of his powers and abilities. For a while, he had Warlock attached to him, which made him much more formidable, but those days have been long gone. But Doug is the one mutant that really defied the Quiet Council's wishes, one that was so close to their trust. His betrayals went unnoticed. And Doug will even admit to this and say, you know, the Quiet Council, they spoke for Krakoa, but they never listened. Doug did, and Apocalypse recognizes this. He goes on to say that he hasn't. For centuries, he believed that his methods were the only way forward for mutant kind, that he would test their mettle. He would do so in fire and blood. That way, when the enemies came knocking, they were more than prepared. And as Apocalypse talks, this is when we see the Sentinels coming in for Doug, tears streaming down his face, absolutely petrified, not wanting to be taken away from Krakoa again, left there in nothing but ashes. Apocalypse believes that maybe he needs an heir whose weapon is his words, whose tongue knows diplomacy and delicate lies. Doug was one of the first mutants to ever walk on Krakoa. He spent a year living on the island all alone. He developed their way of life. He believes that they never should have had to give that up. Apocalypse recognizing how much Doug has lost, but tells him death can be a passage towards rebirth. As we pick up in Arakko, we pick up with Wolverine and Richter, the two of them conversating about what Apocalypse did, how none of them are actually dead, they all got teleported here, and now they're all waiting for the final contestant. Archangel being the one to set them free when Apocalypse wasn't going to. But as the two of them have their conversation, we have the arrival of Cable and Forge, two contestants knocked out of the fight. And with their arrival, we have everyone sitting around waiting to see who the the next one comes in. Who is the last contestant to be taken off the board before we find our Heir of Apocalypse? As they stand around the teleport table, this is when we have the flashing arrival of Mirage. The last contestant standing is Doug Ramsey, taking us over to Egypt. We have Bay the Blood Moon, the wife to Doug. We have Warlock, once integrated together, and we have Apocalypse. He says that the process has finished. He tells Doug to rise and meet his new disciples. And behold the heir. Standing before us is the Heir of Apocalypse, now known as Revelation. He tells Apocalypse that he is not going to shepherd as he has, with force and might, that new mutant leaders are going to rise from the ashes of Krakoa. He will listen to them, he will learn from them, and he will do what he should have done to save their way of life before the fall. He will be their revelation. He will reveal to them the error of their ways. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. So it is Doug freaking Ramsey. Out of all the individuals, I really didn't see it being him. And after going through this, I don't think Apocalypse ever really cared about any of the other individuals. I think he put this whole trial together, all so Cipher would show up to it. He would be a part of it, and inevitably be the heir of Apocalypse. It was a matter of Cipher simply accepting his fate. And who can blame him? After everything that he went through, after everything that he endured, after everything that he had lost, Doug wanted to ensure that this loss would never happen again, to ensure that mutant kind would always be prepared. And I don't really know what Apocalypse just did to him, but I think it's safe to say that he's no longer just an omnilinguist. Cipher has gotten, or Revelation has gotten, a significant upgrade. What powers that is and to what extent that is, we've yet to fully find out. But I am 100% here for it. I'm excited to see his upgrade. Maybe he's gonna be an Omega level, who knows? Being powered up by Apocalypse and being the heir of Apocalypse, we can only assume that Apocalypse really took him to a whole other level. I really didn't think it was gonna be Doug. As I started to go through the comics, by the time you get to 2 or 3, you kind of get the feeling that maybe it might be Doug, but nah, that would be crazy, right? Nope, definitely not crazy. That's the direction they went with it. Because at the end of the day, what were you gonna do with Cipher? There really wasn't much you could do with him. Having a glorified translator around's great and all, but it makes for a boring story. He would always be a side character. And in this, he's becoming the heel. He's becoming the big bad for the X-Men. We have seen Cipher taken from a guy who is able to communicate with everybody to the next big villain that the X-Men are gonna have to face against. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you want to get caught up on everything that is going on with this issue, go ahead, check out the link in my description, as well as the top of this video. It'll get you completely caught up on everything that has been going on with the Heir of Apocalypse. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50, from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel tremendously, but you are getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you're unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.